What is happening, people? Scarface Buzzbook here, back on one of these weekly podcasts every Monday, 7:45 p.m. live on YouTube. Today, I'm joined by a fantastic panel. Firstly, Justin, regular on the show. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Thank you for having us on. How's you?
No, very good, thank you. Thank you very much for giving me your time this evening. It should be a good one, so thank you very much, Justin. Phillip, thank you very much for stepping in last minute. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on. I just wanted to also congratulate you on getting to 2K subscribers as well. I've been following your journey from afar, from over here in Germany, over the last couple of years. So well done. And yeah, how are you doing anyway?
Yeah, very good, thank you. And thank you very much, Phillip, for that as well. Yeah, we have reached 2,000 subscribers. It's been a good journey 2 years ago. I mean, where's that time gone? So, no, thank you very much, Phillip. It's an honour to have you on board tonight. Connor, how you doing? Welcome back. Back-to-back weeks for you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Harry. I'm not too bad. You'll have to let me know if my audio's not very good because I've got new earbuds in, but I'm good.
Sounds good to me so far. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It's free to do so and it helps the channel and the podcast grow and the content improve. If you are listening after on a podcast platform, don't forget to drop us a follow and a 5-star review, whether it be Amazon Music, Spotify, or Apple Music. But let's crack straight into it. And Justin, I'm going to start with you. Yeah, because what the show is about, Eberechi Eze, we all divert elsewhere, but we want to focus on Eze first. Should we prioritise him this window for you? And if so, how much is he worth?
In terms of this, it's easy to answer the second question rather than the first one. The second part, yes, he's worth. I mean, when I saw the reports that his release clause was looking at the £60 million mark, I just thought, particularly how he has started the Euros. You know, this is a guy who's going into a tournament, you know, in top form when, you know, as we saw in the Iceland game, there's a lot of players who aren't. So, you know, he's got a real shot of making, you know, himself strong in that position, you know, and I think his versatility really should make it almost a no-brainer for Tottenham in terms of, you know, being able to play, you know, as a number 10 to the right, to the left, wherever that we would need him to slot in. You know, there's, you know, I've heard people turn around and say, well, where does Maddison fit? Well, he fits in as well. You have both. You don't turn around and leave with £100 million worth of talent, especially as a Tottenham scenario, and turn around and go, well, we'll only have one of them on the pitch. You have both, you know, and I feel we'd be good enough for that. And then you have the likes of, you know, Kulusevski, Johnson, people like that, Werner, who are able to provide competition. Because, you know, I've heard some people turn around and say, well, why should we going? And I'm like, well, okay, you know, how would you feel if you were starting the first game of the season and you had a striker, which is what I'll come on to in a moment, you know, Son, Eze, and Maddison? You know, that to me is quite a threatening front four, if you like. But the reason I've answered the questions in the other way around is because, to me, I feel that the striker is the bigger, you know, issue in terms of this, because obviously I know that people are critical of Johnson, people are critical of Werner, but I think one of the difficulties that we've got is the fact that they are playing it, they're trying to feed balls into an area where, you know, Richarlison hasn't been fit. I don't feel there's a confidence there with Dane Scarlett. You know, are we going to give Troy Parrott a go? I'm not so sure. I think if a decent offer comes in, I think we'll seek pastures new for him. So to me, as long as the key part is, as long as it doesn't impact on us going to get an actual striker, you know, that to me has to be almost the pivotal part of this. Because if we turn around and we bring in Eze and that's it, my worry will be we're almost then back to having a situation where people are having to play, you know, Richarlison if he's fit, or Sonny who is in his natural position. So, you know, as long as it doesn't impact on that, then I think it's just an absolute no-brainer, because I think it's the one signing as well. We can question everybody else, but I can guarantee you this: if we sign Eze, right, that galvanizes the football club, galvanizes the fan base, because people turn around and see that as a star signing. This is a guy who's going into Euros, top of his game. We can get him on board before the Euros really kick on. then I think that is a marquee signing that we can build upon in terms of what they've been talking about with this one in, one out that we potentially seem to be hearing about.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much, Justin. Philip, obviously Justin touched on it there. The rumours are he has a 60 million release clause. If you were Spurs and Daniel Levy, would you be paying that?
I think I would, yes. The only thing that I would question is how does that release clause actually work? Because I kind of also read some reports that it's a very complicated release clause. Apparently, it's not as simple as. Apparently, a very large chunk of that release clause needs to be paid up front, or something. That's what I heard. And if that's the case, I actually think that could put off some potential clubs for coming in. Just the way the deal's structured nowadays at the moment, especially with the FFP rules, etc. I've heard that United are also kind of sniffing around as well, but that Eze would actually prefer to stay in London and would prefer to join us potentially in terms of the project and where the team is. I think I would pay it if I was Daniel Levy. The only thing that I would also say on that, and I would agree with Jay on that, is for me, he wouldn't be my priority signing. If I would look again towards the need for an additional striker, in my opinion. And in my opinion as well, I do think we still need a solution in the number 6 role. We need that. I don't know if you would call it that defensive midfielder, that DMC, whatever, championship manager kind of style. But we need that solid player in there. Palhinha's going to Bayern. He would have been the perfect player for me to have in there. And then in front of them, you'd have a selection of Madders, potentially Eze, Kulusevski, Bergvall, even if he gets game time, plus. And at the moment, I just don't think that Basuma is cutting it. So, for me, he's not the priority signing. And I still think we do need to upgrade on Richie, unfortunately. So it's a difficult one. My last point on that as well, just quickly, is that I think that Eze would galvanise the club and the fans as well. And he can probably play anywhere, right, across the front. He can play the Madders role. He can potentially play alongside Madders. He can play on the left, cutting in. And he could play on the right as well. So he's certainly a squad player that will strengthen us. And 60 million in the market now is nothing special, really, is it? I think if you look at what clubs are having to pay for top quality. So, I would pay it. I would also say, though, that if we're looking for Werner backup, or rather, for someone who's got a better quality than Werner on the left, because I think pretty much a lot of people are aligned that Werner's not going to be good enough maybe to start on the left, right, every game. Is that Eze then? Because Eze likes to cut inside. He likes to come inside. He's not the guy to dribble around the player on the outside. So is he competing more with Madders? I don't know. All I would say on that again is I would get him, but I'm not sure that it's as clear cut then as to what we do with the rest of the squad and how we achieve then full balance, basically.
Yeah. No, I agree with a lot what you said, Philip. So thank you very much for that. Connor, we'll move on to you. Obviously, a similar question I asked the guys. Should we prioritise Eze? And is he worth 60 million for you? Because obviously that is the rumoured release clause. If you were Tottenham, obviously it's easy to sit here for us and just go, pay it. But what would you do?
I think it's worth it. I think we should do it. I think if anything, we're lucky that there is a release clause involved, as if he does go to the Euros and play really well, then you'd be looking at an even higher fee than before. So to be able to get him for the release clause price, so to have like a fixed price in place is quite good. I'd also like to touch on the thing about him cutting in. I think that would allow Udogie to run down the left, and then maybe a bit more space would open up on that left-hand side. But at the same time, Udogie also does like to play through the middle because he inverts. So I feel like there could end up being an overload sometimes in the midfield. But yeah, I do think that we should prioritise him. I think he's a really good player. And you've got to, I know I sent you a video recently of me saying you've got to spend big to win big. So I think we should get him.
No, I agree with that, and thank you very much for sticking with you, Connor. Let's say, I mean, I hope this is the case. I think a lot of Spurs fans will feel the same. But we sign Eze. Do you see him being a regular starter? Justin again did touch on it. I think you all have in different parts. Is it competition for Maddison? Is it replacement for Maddison? Backup for Maddison? Is it just another option to have? What do you see it as? Because for me, I'm with majority of you guys in terms of I'd like to see him on that left hand side.
I'm not sure what Postecoglou would do with him. I don't know whether both of them would be able to play together. I don't know how that would work. But hopefully there is a way to play them both, as there's two very talented players. But at the same time, if it is a thing of only being able to play one player, it does add good competition. It'll keep Maddison. Because sometimes I think Maddison's attitude doesn't always look good. I'm not saying it's bad, but from an outside perspective, sometimes his attitude doesn't look great. So maybe it could keep him, with a drive to make sure he's in the team. But yeah, I think it could be good competition.
Okay, well, for me, I'm thinking like when you're playing a low block team, I don't know, or playing someone lower down in the league. I don't know. I don't know what it would be now. Maybe I don't know, Ipswich, Leicester, who knows? And you want to break them down. And for me, you'd go with obviously you'd have your six, whoever that may be, and then I'd go with Maddison and Eze in front. I think that you can take that risk. We see Manchester City do it, we see Liverpool do it, we see Arsenal do it, and there's no problem. And that kind of comes back to the point which we will get onto later of how important that number 6 is, because then you can have those two. Whereas, last season with the team we've got now, I wouldn't really feel comfortable doing that because we haven't got that protection to the defence. But when you're playing that type of opposition, I think we can do that. Philip, you're nodding. Do you agree with that? Would you like to see them both, obviously if Eze is signed, both in the team against certain, obviously, oppositions?
For sure, yeah. I think the way that both of them play, they could complement one another, not just cancel one another out. I think at the end of the season, Ange, he kind of played 5, didn't he, in midfield, or he played with a false 9, whatever, right? And in certain games, maybe that's also a way to go, right, where you pack the midfield and essentially you've got Madders, Eze, and then the wide players, and then don't forget Kulu's in there as well. And if he plays on the right and he cuts inside, then he's also going to be in the centre, packing out the middle. But they're also flexible, aren't they? They like to kind of drift around a bit. So I would like to see them play together, and I think they could play against the right opposition. If they are sitting back, Eze at least is a dribbler, right? I mean, he can turn quickly. He can dribble past players, and I think that's what we miss anyways. We don't have enough dribblers in the team, and he does offer that, even though he's not really he's not an out-and-out winger, is he? He's not, as I said, he's not going to burst to the byline and dribble past, but he can dribble past players, and that's something that we don't really have. Kulusevski doesn't really do that. Doesn't have that burst of pace, really, does he? Madders can, but only when he's like on super top form and confidence somehow. At the beginning of the season, he was doing that, but he wasn't doing that the last 4 or 5 months. So yeah, they can play together. And I think it's a great option to have in the squad. But, the more we talk about it, I think that he offers so much more than just, being that left winger or being in the centre in the 10 role or the 8 role. And I think someone mentioned there, we've still got Sarr in there as well, right? I mean, if Bergvall hits the ground running and he gets some game time and he's like physically strong enough, then we've got a lot of options kind of in behind, right? So Eze for 60 million, he would just kind of add to that. So yeah, I think they can all play together.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip. And Justin, I'll move on to you. If you had to choose between the two, and just be clear, I would take either. I would prefer Eze, but would you take Eberechi Eze or Morgan Gibbs-White if you could only choose one, Justin?
Oh, that's a tough one.
I've aimed that at you because you like Gibbs White and you like Eze.
I
So
do like Gibbs White. I think the answer to the question, and it's going to sound strange, but I'll explain. It depends on the date. Okay. And what I mean by that is if you're referring to 30th of June, up until that point, I think it's Morgan Gibbs White. Okay. After that, it's Eze. And the reason that I say that is because Tottenham are not, as I think Phillip mentioned earlier, with the complications potentially with Eze's release clause. Because personally, I think that if Tottenham are going to do that deal, it would be done by now in terms of meeting the release clause and getting that sorted. To me, it feels like that there is other sort of aspects in play. And the reason that I'm saying the date wise is because if you look at FFP and PSR, there are 6 clubs that have been named as needing to balance their books before the 30th of June. Okay. And Nottingham Forest is one of them. So I sort of look at the situation there. And when we look at Eze and we look at Morgan Gibbs White, the rumours around Eze, we're talking about 60 million. Okay. Morgan Gibbs White, we're talking around 40 million. Right. That is a 20 million pound gulf between the two players at a club where we have either wasted money or we've not really gone out and spent it. So to me, I sort of look at it, and bearing in mind when you look at Morgan Gibbs White and Eze, they can kind of do the same sort of thing, and that is why, and I get the comment there, I think he's absolutely right. I think Nottingham Forest probably will want more, but as the day goes on, as the clock ticks and things like that, the 30th of June is almost like a transfer deadline day for those clubs. I think it was Nottingham Forest, Everton, Chelsea, Newcastle, Aston Villa, and Leicester. They were the 6 that were noted, sort of highlighted as they needed to balance their books. So if you're going to turn around and you are able to get a deal done for Morgan Gibbs White where you can get him for around the 40 million mark, I don't see how Tottenham don't take that deal. Because I think if you look at, and it'd be very interesting, I haven't looked into the stats, in terms of between Morgan Gibbs White and Eze, but the one thing I sort of look at with Morgan Gibbs White over Eze is what he has done to help keep Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. Okay, in terms of that aspect, I think that probably Eze is probably a better player, but I think practicality and financially, knowing the club that we support, I do think that will come into it. So that's why I say up to the 30th of June, Morgan Gibbs White. After that, then it has to be Eze, because I don't think then they go into a new financial year in terms of PSR. Nottingham Forest will then want, as he said rightly, the 50, 60 million. They won't be in any rush. Why would you then go and pay that money when you could go and get Eze?
Just if it depends on the date, it's Monday the 10th of June. So do you feel like Eze today or Morgan Gibbs White? Sorry, I couldn't resist.
So if you're referring to if money's no object, it's Eze. If it is me, and I have that money, which Tottenham do, let's not dispute that. Tottenham have that money, so they could. But knowing Tottenham, as I have done since I've supported them, wearing the shirt I am, I feel like they would be more leaning towards Gibbs White because of the nature of the deal that potentially can be done. If you look at New Crystal Palace, they're not desperate. They're not going to turn around and say to Tottenham, oh, okay, you want to sign Eze? Well, let's do a deal. Let's help you out to do it. No, as Phillip rightly said, they've got that high level on there. They're going to want it because they know how big he is. They know the talent that they're looking at. So they're not going to turn around and do Tottenham any favours. So whereas I think if you're asking me in terms of who I want, it's Eze. Who I think financially makes more sense for the club, I think it's Gibbs White.
No, all jokes aside, I do agree with that, and I think that I just couldn't help myself. But people know me. I have defended the board at times, and I do stand by that. But this year, the stadium shows, and the FFP statistic shows, whether you want to believe it or not, we have the money to spend. That we can spend. So I get not doing it when the stadium's being built. I get not doing it in the past, but this year, for me, there feels like a lot of, and I was someone who's saying I think the new stadium will be a game changer. When are we going to start seeing the effect when it comes to transfer market? We're seeing the money statistics come into the club. We're seeing that change. We're not seeing the transfer window. And people go, oh yeah, but we spent 150 million in the transfer window. But 100 of that or so is from Harry Kane. Surely you allocate a budget on top of player sales. It feels like this isn't being done. Obviously, I don't want to be negative before the transfer window. I want to see how it goes. But, there shouldn't be like some Spurs fans going, and it's unlikely Alexander Isak, for example. And I totally understand why it's not going to really happen. But people going, it's impossible. It's not impossible because the money's there. Newcastle will probably need to sell some players if they want to bring big players in. The statistics we're seeing that Newcastle aren't listed in the six. This is all before we knew that Newcastle would finish outside of Europe. This was done when Newcastle were going to sneak in the Conference League and before Man United won the FA Cup. So I think people do generally forget that, but we'll have to see how it goes. Connor, Eze or Gibbs-White?
Eze. I think if we go for Gibbs-White, I don't know. Again, it's that thing of cheaper options sort of thing. Yeah, I like him. I think he's a good player, but from what I've watched, I think it's clear to see that Eze is far better, and I think we need to, take the gamble on a player of that quality.
Okay, thank you very much. Philip, how do you feel? So you've heard a lot of this discussion. Where do you kind of stand on it?
Can I just play devil's advocate 1 second?
Please do.
And just put the question kind of almost back, or rather make a statement and kind of say, well, is it actually confirmed that Eze is like our number one target or one of our top 3 targets? Like, there's been a lot of talk amongst the fan base, right? How we'd love to get Eze. We've been linked with him in the past, of course. I think we had the chance to sign him, right, when he was at QPR. And we either passed it up or, he went for a first team kind of guarantee football. I think we passed it up, to be honest, back then. Like, I think we could have got him, right, for, was it 18 or something like that? I can't remember, but it wasn't even that long ago. But I did see an article by Ali Gold, I think, just talking about Eze, but are we that are we like really trying to get him? Like, I'm just wondering whether, though, there's been a lot of hype, there's been a lot of talk, but is he really one of our top targets? Or are we?
I think to sort of answer that part, I think it's a difficult one because I think obviously the club is very sort of cagey in terms of where it's looking at. And I think it's a lot of a case of 2 + 2 equaling 5, because obviously when Palace came to Tottenham, I know that the club put up his family up in one of the private boxes, that they were, obviously there's been all these links with regards to him. I think perhaps maybe it's more to do with the fact that, when you look at, particularly as Alex de Gaulle did say, Tottenham do like him, but I think the difficulty that we've got here is that it's that balance in what the club like and what Ange likes. And I think, to be fair, this is where, because I know there was rumours that they were talking about him last year, and I don't think they went anywhere with that. And the one thing I would say is, regardless of anything that happens here, whether we want Eze or not, as I said, we can talk about it for the whole show. But if Ange doesn't want him, then Tottenham should not be signing him. And that's me saying, as someone who wants him, because we all saw what happened with Jed Spence, right? When Conte came out and said this is a club signing, and everybody went, oh, we know what's happening here then. And we've seen it. This is where, no matter what the club thinks, they could drive this if they want. But if it is a case that he wants somebody else, then that is who they've got to go for. It's as simple as that. The moment we start turning around and we start defying a manager, as we've done in the past, it ends one way, and that's badly.
No, I think that's fair enough. Yeah. Thank you very much, Justin. Go on,
I think
Phillip.
as well, and I agree with that, Justin, as well. Since Johan Langer or has come in, right, there does seem to be a bit more secrecy, right, around our dealings. There seems to be less leaks or kind of like information getting out there as well. So I wonder if he is trying to just keep things, even more under wraps. And to be fair, over the last couple of seasons, we've pulled out some really good value transfers, right? So, I just do wonder whether Eze, at the price that he is, and, it is a large upfront chunk, I wonder whether it's just really an option for us, but like not the main option, right? If we're going to get in. And I mean, the players are literally on the plane, right? I think they were flying to Germany today, weren't they? Possibly.
Yeah, they've just landed there now.
So they've just landed, and the first game's next week. I mean, a transfer's not going to happen now, is it? Like they're not going to agree on a fee. He's going to have to do his medical, right, before the transfer gets ratified. He's not going to do that, right, before the Euros. I don't see any chance of that happening whatsoever. I don't think any players are going to be allowed to leave the squad, right? So, it would have to be a deal probably then that does happen later. And actually, going back to the original question, I'd probably favour Eze over Gibbs White, but I could certainly understand why we would sign Gibbs White instead. And I actually think that Gibbs White maybe is a better kind of Ange player, possibly as well. I think he's a bit younger as well, right? Eze's going to be 26 end of this month. I might be wrong, but I think it's Gibbs White 22, something like that, possibly. So I don't know. I think I do wonder whether we're kind of almost maybe fishing in the dark a bit, though, and whether there is actually, a couple of other left-sided players or, central attacking midfielders that are kind of a bit under the radar. Nico Williams has been mentioned as well. I know there's a lot. I mean, he's kind of like up there, isn't he? Like in Europe, right, at the moment, as a kind of left-sided winger. I'm not sure how much he would cost. Probably at least the Eze money, I would imagine. But if I had the choice between Eze and Nico Williams, I'd go for Nico Williams every single day of the week. Just to
let you know, Gibbs White is 24, Eze is 25, so they're very sort of similar with it. I think the only thing, because I agree with the Nico Williams one as well. I think the only reason that they're looking at the other, if they are looking at the other two, is the wages potential be a lot lower. I know that the talk with Nico Williams is from the reports that were put out, it was about £200,000 to £300,000 a week. So it put him well into the high echelons of what Tottenham's wage structure is, which is why I think they'd probably more realistically look at the other two.
I think that Morgan Gibbs White is more realistic in terms of Forest's FFP situation, which we've touched on. And I do think that he will naturally, from eye, suits the way that Ange kind of plays. He glides with the ball. Eze's a bit like, I don't know, like Doku for City in terms of maybe a bit more erratic, a top player, but you just don't know what they're going to bring. Every time it's something different, whereas you know what you're getting from Gibbs White. In a way, that's what I can kind of think. So I can see Gibbs White happening. I would take either, though, to be totally honest with you. Anyone putting questions in the chat on YouTube, we'll get to questions at the very end. Don't you worry. Do you have something to add to that, Phillip?
I was just going to put into the mix, like if you had the chance or real opportunity of getting Grealish in, probably quite a reduced fee, I would say, compared to Eze. To be honest, I mean, he wouldn't be cheap, but like he's 29. He's City are probably strengthening anyways, right? Would you take Grealish over Eze?
Firstly, I would, and I think that would make even more sense in terms of he's struggling to get in the City team. He's not in the England team at the moment. He needs a career change for me and needs more minutes. So at Spurs, I think that he'd be, I'm trying to think of it in a board type of view. He's competition for Maddison, if not more than that, but also can play on the left. So he covers two positions. Instead of going, we need Eze, then we need a Nico Williams, or then we need a left-sided player. I don't think you'll get many people say no. Well, I've got some in the chat already, but I don't think there'll be that many that will say no. So I'll go around the panel and discuss whether you three want to see Jack Grealish. I'm assuming that's a yes from you, Philip. Firstly,
Yeah, it would be. I would rather take Grealish over Eze if it was a straight choice. To be honest.
Has says no in the chat. Okay, I didn't expect that, but there we go. Justin.
So it's Grealish over, who was it?
No,
Eze.
would you like to see Grealish at the club? Makes it a bit easier, I think.
I think I wouldn't mind. I think the problem for me again is it's the finances, because I get what Philip's saying, but I think the problem is obviously Grealish cost City £100 million and he's been there 2 years. I don't see them taking as much of a hit. I feel that they would be looking for similar money, in terms of where it would be. Well, as I say, you've got to look at it from from their point. They've paid £100 million. They've had 2 years out of him. Are they really going to take potentially a 60, 70 million pound drop? That's what you've got to remember for Tottenham to really make that deal.
I think it'd be 80, 85. I think it'd be cheaper because I think they realise they overpaid, and obviously he's not in the England squad at the moment.
Again, as we've highlighted, 29 years old. To be fair, I get what Haz is saying in terms of the one thing with Grealish is he is a little bit predictable. Full well he'll take it down the wing and he'll almost want to cut inside, which is a little bit, whereas I think
you can say that about anyone, though. I think you can say that about Son, Johnson, Kulusevski. I think you can say that about anyone. Harry Kane, you know what he's going to do. You just can't stop him.
To be fair, Son is, with Johnson, he is more, okay, the quality maybe not there, but he is more down that wing. He is almost like that. And I think, although with the quality of Werner, we saw the same, it was down the wing. To me, Grealish reminds me similar of Kulusevski in terms of, obviously, that stopping and starting and things like that. I would say, obviously, he didn't have a bad game in terms of against Bosnia and Herzegovina. So you could say, could we see that Jack Grealish? But I just look at what Manchester City would want, what Tottenham would be prepared to pay. And I'm being brutal, I just don't see them matching. I really don't. And when you consider what you would then be sacrificing to get him, I just feel that.
But Justin, is that a case of, I totally understand it's not going to happen, and I totally understand your theory behind it. But is it a case of, you just have to spend that money if you want to, because ultimately, right, our long-term goal, whether Ange can do it, whether another manager would do it, is to close the gap on the best team in England. That has to be the aim long term. We're not in this to be top four in 20 years' time. We want to be able to continually improve, continually progress, and that is in all competitions. But focusing on the league, then you have to go and take, either take their players or transfers the way they do. But you look at players like Osimhen and top players like that, it's Chelsea, United, City, Arsenal in the conversation. There's no Tottenham. There's no Newcastle either.
Yeah, so to be fair, again, this is the club that we support. We've never seen them be in those sort of mixes. I've still got the screenshot because it's the greatest screenshot ever when they turned around and said that Tottenham were in the mix for signing Kylian Mbappe. I will put it in the group chat because it generally was on there from Sky Sports. I thought it was hilarious. But here's another question for you then, and then I'll explain why I'm asking. Would you take, if you're talking about big money spend, would you spend big money on Grealish or would you spend big money on Isak?
Because you see my post about Isak.
Yeah, but the reason I'm asking is because it's based on what is important for the value of what you're going to spend. Exactly. And that is where, to me, I look at it and I go, if somebody said to me, I could go and get somebody else, right, but I could have Isak up top, to me, I think that is the bigger problem.
I agree, but neither of them will happen. That's the problem.
No, they won't. But what I'm saying is that there are 8 people out there, and it'd be quite interesting to ask Philip. Obviously, being from Germany, one of the strikers I know he's being linked with Dortmund, but I know that I've heard that Tottenham were liking him. Is that Guirassy from Stuttgart, because he's got a release clause of £17.5 million. To me, I just feel you could go and get another striker on top and have him as an option, especially with AFCON and things like that. That is where, if you were to say to me, where is the biggest issue? Is it the wingers or is it the striker? For me, it's the striker, because I don't believe, because as we saw, Sonny isn't at number 9. Richarlison has got a lot of injury issues. So should we not be getting somebody in who could get that 20, 30 goals? Because we can all agree we have not replaced Harry Kane. Someone like Isak, if we were prepared to, would solve that problem.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Phillip?
Yeah, I mean, again, if we combine that back into the Grealish kind of money thing and also the Eze one as well, I mean, I wouldn't want to pay 60, 70 million, right, then for that kind of attacking midfielder or even like left-sided midfielder, because I don't think it's a priority. And I think you're right as well, Justin. You mentioned again there, Son. We haven't even talked about Son, right? I mean, again, he's not a striker, is he? He's not number 9. Maybe he kind of can be, and if you're playing mid-block or something, or low block, and you're hitting them on the break, then he can kind of play somewhere on the left or in the middle, but he's not a striker. So where's he going to play for us next season? It's going to be mainly on the left. And that's where Werner normally plays. And actually, that's probably where Eze would kind of play as well, right? Unless if he's playing the Maddison role. So, the priority, again, has to be more that striker. And yeah, Isak is unrealistic. I think Isak is unrealistic, if only because I know that there's other teams interested in him. Even if it's that lot down the road, they've been linked with him, and if they would be concretely interested in getting him and spending big, I think they're interested in that Sesko from Leipzig as well, who is an excellent, somewhat raw striker, but I think he's got a release clause about 55.
Yeah, I know Arsenal are looking at him. He should be an option for us. Definitely.
And we should be going after someone like that, because he's someone who will still learn. He's still learning as well, and he can probably play different kinds of roles as well. But again, like Isak's probably unrealistic, but someone like Guirassy, 100%. Like Guirassy, he's still relatively young. He's big. He's fast. He can play that kind of holding number 9 role much better than Richarlison, but he's faster than Richarlison. He's obviously scored a hatful of goals. He's on a low wage. He's available, right? There is teams sniffing around him, but, I think he's and his agent are kind of holding out a bit at the moment. They're not really committing to anything. They've said they're happy to stay one more season with Stuttgart because they'll be in the Champions League next season. So I think he's also happy to stay on, and they don't need to sell him. But, if we really want to strengthen that striker position, we have to go after someone like that. And I would be a bit, that would be my more concern. I know this conversation's about this pod is about Eze, but, I honestly think we've got bigger priorities than him. Put it this way, if we didn't get Eze, right? If we didn't get Eze and we didn't get another similar, we didn't get Grealish, and we got some other player for 20 million, but he can play kind of central, he can play on the left, would everyone be devastated if it meant that we then got a striker instead?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be. If we don't sign Eze, I'm not, falling off my chair, crying, and I'm not devastated if we don't. But again, it means we need to then invest in the right players. And, I'm sure Ange knows what he wants. For me, I would sell Richarlison. Just coming to that striking question very quickly. If we got an offer for him, I'd sell him. Even though
Any price?
Well, I would assume he wouldn't cost less than 50. I think we bought him for 60. Arguably we'd ask for the same again, but
Who's going to pay that? No, I love Richarlison, but I can only see that coming from Saudi.
Yeah. Apparently he doesn't want to go there, but I don't. Is that
understandably?
But if push comes to shove, does the transfer happen? I would sell him if we got 45 plus for him. I'd sell him because we can surely get a replacement, I think. But we have to be a bit clever as well. Again, Sesko's there for 50. Guirassy's there for 30, 35, 40 maybe, and we've still got, people like Troy Parrott who I would also imagine may get sold to the Netherlands this summer. You know, I can see us selling him. You know, he's had a great season. We can probably get a half decent fee for him, maybe 15 or something like that. So yeah, I don't know, but I think that the priority has to be more the striking position, to be honest, because we can cover the left side. The left side is actually all right, and like Johnson can play on the left as well, right? And I think he's better on the right, but he can play on the left. Even Kulu can play on the left for a change and actually try and go past someone on the left, right, rather than cutting inside. So we've got options there.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Con, I want to bring you into this because you've listened to me, Justin, and Phillip go backwards and forwards, play devil's advocate, goodness knows how many times. So what are your thoughts on what you've heard, recently? Also, the latest one being Richarlison. How do you feel about that?
Don't know where to begin, as all the Grealish stuff as well. With Richarlison, I'm not selling Richarlison. I'm not selling Richarlison at all. He's a very good striker. He's better than you think he is. Give him a full season, he'll prove you wrong. He's so good. Just think back to that patch he had where he come back from full fitness. You know, he sorted out his mental health. He had a clear mind, and he was scoring game after game after game. I promise you, he will do that for maybe not a full season, but he will do that for a longevity of a season. I don't know what other strikers you can really get for the sort of money we get for him who are better than him. I really don't think there's going to be better strikers than Richarlison on the market for the price we get for Richarlison, because we're not going to spend extra money on a striker. As for players like Benjamin Sesko, Isak, they're not going to want to come to Tottenham. They've got far better options on the table. You know, I just think it's not realistic, either of players like that. As for Grealish, I'd take Grealish at Spurs. I think he's a very good footballer. Is there anything else? I'm trying to think what else that was spoke about.
I think that was pretty much it. We kind of went on for a fair bit. I think Harry's either blocked or he's gone to sleep.
I don't know what's happened there. You're right, Harry.
Yeah, I think his has blocked from there really with regards to that. I mean, in terms of then, he saw what he said. I mean, I suppose then, in terms of, one of the things that we are seeing, I suppose if I just step in briefly for this part, would be to ask yourselves is, maybe if, in terms of, obviously we talked a lot about the incoming sides and things like that. When we talk about the outgoings, what do you feel is realistic in terms of, because obviously there's reports coming back out today that Højbjerg's being linked with Atletico Madrid. Obviously we've seen that Jose Mourinho has gone to Fenerbahce, and then obviously we've now seen Antonio Conte has gone to Napoli. What do you feel Tottenham need to be doing in terms of the outgoings? Because it does feel like, obviously, there's a lot of this, one in, one out sort of side of things. If I come to yourself, Phillip, what do you sort of look at and think, well, actually, in terms of outgoings, these are the key ones we need to get out the door? And what would you say is realistic in terms of price-wise?
Yeah, it's always a very, very good point and very good topic. Well, I think it appears that we've got Ndombele out, right, on a free
it looks like with the finishing touches of that.
So at least he's gone. Which I was advocating just to get him out on a free, months ago, a bit like what Arsenal did, to a couple of their players, right, 2 seasons ago, whenever it was, just get him out. So he's gone at least. Lo Celso, apparently, I mean, he's gonna go, isn't he? If we
talk of Betis, I know that Aston Villa are interested. So that I know there's talk that those are the main 2 clubs looking at him.
We'll do a deal for him, right? So he will depart the club. I mean, he's keen to go as well. It seems we are being a bit more realistic with fees as well. Also with the Emerson Royale thing with Milan, right? It looks like it's kind of coming to the final stages, around 20 million or something like that. With Lo Celso, to be honest with you, I don't even know, like, valuation wise. You know, I'm actually not really sure what a fair valuation for him is, because he's won the World Cup, right? And he always plays well for Argentina. But I mean, he's hardly really played for us that much, right, in the Premier League in the last 2 years. I would imagine that we'll take probably a fee of, to be honest, I don't know, 25 to 30 for him.
Do you think we'll even get that? Bear in mind, he's got a year left on his deal.
Oh, he's only got a year left. Oh
yeah,
no,
that's the issue. He's got a year left because he was
we
bought
won't.
at the same time in terms of with Ndombele. So
Nah, we won't then. I mean, but realistically, maybe 15 still. He's an Argentinian international, right? You know, I could see us getting 15 for him. Højbjerg, I would imagine 30, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's scoring goals for Denmark still. In the right system, Højbjerg is an excellent player.
Yeah.
You know, and he can play Champions League level for sure. He just doesn't fit. He doesn't fit into the Ange system.
No.
Like, otherwise, I keep him. I like him. He's a good squad player as well. Like, he's always positive. You know, he's always like committed. But you know, it's the right time for him to go, and I think we can get 30 for him. You know, so you know, him, Lo Celso, let's say that's 40, 45. Emerson Royale is going to go as well, right? Let's say that's 20. You know, what's that? It's already 65, something like that in total. Who else is there? Jill. God knows what we're going to get for him. I mean, I saw a report saying that, I can't remember if it was Sevilla or Betis as well. They were willing to pay 6 million for him or something.
Real Betis is a Celso, I think, and I think Sevilla is Brian Gill. I could be wrong.
Yeah. But I would imagine, I think he's still got a couple of years left on his contract. He's young. He plays well in Spain, right? He's still got the talent. I would imagine we'd get, I don't know, 15 for him, surely. You know, he's still highly rated in Spain. No, like.
If I that's what I'd value him at, but I think we're talking 10 to 12 based on he hasn't had many first team
or a
minutes.
loan deal. Maybe we get him out on a loan.
A loan to buy?
With a buy, you know, like something
10 million,
like that.
yeah.
Could be a loan fee, maybe, you know. But I'd
Connor's
rather
not happy with that. Connor, talk to me about it.
No, we've got to just sell. Holding on to players too much, loaning them out too much. Look at players like Reguilon, players like Ndombele. There's so many players. There's too many to talk about. But yeah, I don't want to see no more loan to buys.
No, I understand that. Fair enough. Apologies for my technical issue earlier. My laptop decided to completely freeze and then chuck me out of my own show, which it's not the first time. It won't be the last time. It seems to think it's theirs. It's not mine. But there we go. I want to move on before we get on to a bit of international duty and who's representing Spurs, which won't take long because there's not many, sadly. But I want to go over the 3 Nike kits that have been released. So Justin, I'll come to you first. What do you think about it? Firstly, I really like the home kit, and I really, really like the 3rd kit. The away kit, though, what do you think of it?
I'll be brutally honest. I'm not overly fussed in terms of kits, and if you notice by the fact that I'm wearing the 1994 kit, okay, I'm wearing it for a couple of reasons. One, because I like the look of it. And the second one is the pricing. You know, if you're talking about fully kitting somebody out, you know, in terms of whether, I think the price, I mean, it was for just the shirt on its own is 85 quid. You know, to have all the bells and whistles then put on that shirt is 120 quid. You know, I bought this shirt for 25 quid. You know, and I mean, nobody sits there and when I walk out with it and says, oh, which team do you support? Most of them look at me and go, oh, I'm sorry about that, you know, and then they just carry on with the rest of their day. So to me, the kits look nice. In terms of that part, they look nice. Okay, I get where you're coming from. But I just feel we're at a stage where, you know, we're asking families to spend this money for these type of kits, and yet we're then struggling to afford to buy certain players. Like, for example, if we were turning around and we had Eze, Isak, you know, Son and Maddison as our front four, people would then justify spending that money because they can go, I am putting this money on because I've got Isak on the back of my shirt and I've got a team at the top that are fighting to win the title. You know, we're looking at it here where they're talking about some of the players that we're talking about being looked at, and you're like, why then am I justifying spending 85 quid on that? Why am I justifying spending the crazy amount of money to go and see the football club? Why am I spending all the money in terms of to spend in the shop and spend on drinks and food and all the other bits that come with it when it's the quality of players that are being brought in? And I looked at it, and I'll be honest, the advert, the tease, the advert for it, I just sat there and I'm going to be honest, I wanted to throw up. I really did, because I sat there and I thought, we've put so much effort into an advert for a kit, not for a new player, but for a kit, which everybody has sat there and has said they reckon they can find alternatives. I won't say who, because I'm pretty sure there are people out there who have got ideas. I've seen it plenty on social media. I mean, myself, I said I don't buy the new ones. I buy the older retro kits because they're a lot cheaper. I bought one. Remember the yellow one with the AIA in blue on it, right? The AIA is already peeled off. You know, this is within the fabric. I could go to that all day long. Nothing comes off of it at all. And I think that's where there is that sense of not really reading the room when it comes to these things. The kits look lovely, but pricing wise, and ultimately who's going to be wearing them, I just feel, once again, that's a bit of a faux pas by the club.
Just to divert, and we talk about kit prices, someone know that we have our own channel merch that's opened in 2 week workshops. We will have another one this summer, and we sell shirts for just £25. And my thinking behind kind of doing that deal with the company was that the kits are too expensive and you shouldn't have to overpay for a kit. And this material that is used is exactly the same that's used football kits. Yeah, very little profit is made out of it by the company because they share the same value with me in terms of, you just mustn't rip your customer off. It's all about value for money. You get name and the number back for free. So I will let everyone know when the shop is open, but that is just £25. And it's the same in every size. There's no, if you're an extra size up, you pay extra. No, it doesn't work like that. Delivery fee is fixed as well, so it doesn't change. But Connor, for you, where do you stand on Nike in general with the kits? Because I see that second kit and think, ditch Nike. Then I see that third kit and I like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I quite like the home one, and I quite like the green one as well. I think at first I looked at the green one and I thought, I don't know, but it's one of those kits that the more I see it, the more I know I'm going to like it, and I'll probably end up getting it at some point. But yeah, as for Nike, I don't know. I'm not really fussed with who makes our kits, but the one thing I do want to get rid of is AIA. I don't think it looks nice on the kit, but obviously, there's more important things than how nice the kit looks.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree. Phillip, where do you stand with the Spurs kits?
Well, on the actual how the kits look, when I first saw the final confirmed designs, I thought that all of them weren't all that, to be honest. And then I saw the home kit kind of live being worn by Madders or by Son or something like that, and I actually like the home kit. It's got memories of that. I think it's the Edgar Davids kit, the Kappa one, wasn't it? From, is it 2004, 2005, something like that. And I've always got that image of Edgar with his glasses on and the navy stripes there, and I think that's actually a nice kit. The second kit, to be honest, it might make Lo Celso turn into Messi because it kind of looks a bit like an Argentina kit, but it also looks like a pajama top. I don't know. I won't be getting that. Although I did like the away kit this season. I thought it was a nice away kit this season, but that one, no. And that third one, again, I'd need to see it live. in person because I've only seen some pictures.
Yeah, I get that, and I think, well, for
Like-
me anyway, I don't know how you feel about that, Philip, but my opinion changes throughout the season with the kits. The more you see, you go, either I'm sick of that, or most likely it improves as we go out the season. That away kits we've had, and I thought I don't like that, and then you grow into it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I would also agree with Justin as well, though. I mean, the pricing is awful. I don't know how families, manage it, right, when you've got like 3 kids and all support Spurs, and they actually, want to get the official merch of the club. I guess Nike have a part to play in that as well. The pricing probably, I don't know how much of that obviously goes to Nike and how much the club kind of make out of it. And probably the pricing is similar to other, Nike Premier League clubs, I would imagine, right? But still, you can't justify those prices. And, if you go out there and get the retro kits or, I bought the last home kit I got was the one that Supian, had with the shield on, where it had the shield on the, I think it was the first Nike kit with the shield of the cockerel, very pure white one, and it was quite nice. But like for me, I'd always just get the retro kit now, or just even get like a Nike t-shirt. You can get a nice Nike Spurs t-shirt for 20 quid, at 18 quid. You don't need to wear the kit, all the time. But people are different. I know there's a lot of rip-off sites apparently out there, where you can order it from somewhere else in the world, which apparently a lot of people do. But yeah, the quality of the kits is bad as well. As Justin said, I remember that pony. I've got like a couple of those pony kits from the late 90s and they're indestructible, like literally the quality of the materials. But anyways, that's a different topic. I think I wish that we could get rid of Nike, if I'm being honest. I'm not that impressed. But we're tied in for another, 7-8 years or something. So we're just gonna have to suck it up.
No, exactly.
What's more important is the quality of the players that plays in the kit, at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the all important thing. Next, James Maddison and Pedro Porro missed out on their respective Euro 2024 squads. Porro with Spain, Maddison with English. Maddison took to X in the week, and I think it was quite an emotional thing that he put out, so I will read it out. He said, devastated, doesn't quite cut it, trained well and worked hard all week, but if I'm honest with myself, my form for Spurs when coming back from injury in the second half of the season probably wasn't at the levels I'd set, which gave Gareth a decision to make. I still thought there would be space for me in a 26-man squad, as I feel I'll bring something different and had been a mainstay in this whole qualifying campaign for Euro 2024 in Germany. But the manager has made the decision and I have to respect that. I'll be back, I have no doubt. I'm wishing the boys all the luck in the world out in Germany. Unbelievable group and lads that I call some of my best friends. So I generally hope that football comes home. Connor, when you read that from Maddison, right, there's no, which I like, it's refreshing, right? Players often try and cover the obvious and they're not honest. He's been honest. He thinks he's good enough to be in the squad. Also admits he wasn't good enough post-injury. I think both those things are probably correct. How do you feel about the decision to leave James Maddison out of the squad?
I don't think he should have been going. I've seen a few Spurs accounts on Twitter saying that he's been robbed and that he deserves to go. He doesn't deserve to go at all. I don't think he might have had one good game since he's come back from his injury. I'd much rather. Yeah, if that. I actually watched his first game back. I went one of the only games I've really been to this season. The City loss when we lost to them in the cup. And I remember thinking, oh, hopefully he starts. But then obviously I remembered he'd have to come on eventually, just to, he's not fit or anything. And as soon as I saw him, I was, it was really anticlimactic. But yeah, so I don't think he should have been picked. I think that's right. And I don't know, sometimes I think I'm more of a fan of players keeping their head down and just getting on with it. I don't really feel like he had to make a big thing out of it online. And the way he mentions us, he doesn't say anything horrible about Spurs at all, but I don't know, it feels like he's talking about Spurs in a weird way for me. The way he's just like, oh, my form for Spurs hasn't been good. I don't know. It just doesn't sound right in my head when I hear him say Spurs like that. I don't know. I might be talking
Okay.
nonsense, but yeah, that's how I feel about it.
No, okay, fair enough. Philip, how do you feel about Maddison, but also not forgetting Pedro Porro being left out of both the squads? Are either of them harsh? Because I think Porro's harsh. Because I look at who got in, who would have been got in over him. Mark Cucurella, who maybe on the left hand side, but still a fullback going in ahead of him, who's really struggled to get in a really bad Chelsea team, and Porro's been thriving in the Spurs team. So, what do you make about both those decisions from both managers?
Yeah. I mean, Porro is harsh, I think. I would have thought there'd surely be space for Porro in the Spain squad. I know they've got strong options, but, Porro can play different roles as well, can't he? And he's kind of played as a wing back as well. He's played inverted. I know he's highly rated in Spain. So, I was very surprised by that. And I'm pretty sure that he must have also been gutted by that. I don't think he would have seen that coming, really. At least to be a squad member. Madders, well, yeah, I mean, the same as what Connor said, really. I mean, he doesn't deserve to go, to be honest, based on form. He's been poor, right? I mean, let's be honest, since he came back from injury, he had maybe two good games, possibly. He didn't dribble. He didn't, accelerate away from players. He didn't play the killer passes like he was at the beginning of the season. So in terms of qualifying for England or getting into the England squad, I don't think he deserves the space. And I think, as Southgate also said, the emergence of other players has meant, that there is more competition, right? And that includes an Eze, that includes all of that forward line, right? There's a couple of other midfielders in there, isn't there, as well? Trent Alexander, I guess, is a solid option in midfield, right? Bellingham, will he play the Madders role, kind of almost position, in the team? Foden, Palmer can play that role really as well. And, you're obviously picking Palmer over Madders. I think it's a shame for Madders as well. And I think it is a shame for the squad, because I think a chat popped up there. Madders can offer something a bit different from the bench, a bit like Grealish. I think both of them scored assists, right, in the couple of games that they played recently. You can get them on and they might create something with an amazing pass or cross. I don't think there is anything like them. So I'm surprised that not one of them is going. And I think it's probably harsh on Madders in some ways. He probably wouldn't have expected it. But again, on form, he's got to hold his hands up and say, I wasn't good enough in the end. It's unfortunate, but I think it's the right call. I think it's actually the right call, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. Justin, how do you feel?
In terms of, obviously, when you look at the two of them, I felt sorry for Porro more than I did for Maddison, because I felt when you look at what Porro offered consistently over the season, I think he had a better season than Maddison did. Don't get me wrong. I thought Maddison at the beginning of the season was absolutely sensational and was a shoo-in for the Euros. But, after that Chelsea game where he had a few months out, he just wasn't the same. And there was too many, games where he went missing and things like that. And you kind of then sort of understand why Southgate looked at it. And I think it obviously didn't help that Eze, I know we've been talking about Eze a lot, but in terms from England perspective, he had a really good game against Bosnia and Herzegovina. So I think that probably was the final nail in the coffin. I think if he hadn't turned round and hadn't played well, I think Maddison would have got him. But I think, to be fair, he can maybe not be happy about it, but it's a fair shout. I wasn't surprised when he was eventually dropped.
Yeah, no, fair enough, Justin. I think the Porro's been hard done by it. I think that, I do. But Maddison, I think that's the correct decision. It probably hurts, and you probably, I understand maybe his frustration not being a place in there for something different, and some of the players are in there. Personally, if I was to control that England squad, obviously some of that defence, I mean, I would have changed a lot of it. I've been quite vocal about that. I would have got me just 2 strikers in Watkins and Kane, who've been for me the most to inform out of 3. Ditch Tony and you go with an extra midfielder. Probably would have taken Grealish as an extra option, because I look at that team and go, who's going to change the game? I don't think there's only one personally in there. But before we move on, and Connor, I'll come back to you. Only 4 players representing Spurs at the Euros. Obviously, the Euros isn't as big, as the World Cup, and you haven't got your South American teams, etc. A lot of people have reminded me of that, and they are right to an extent. For you, maybe I'm being harsh here, but does that show that we how far down that decline we've taken, where you go back a few years? Look at the England team, for example. That's where it really supports my case, where we had Rose, Walker, Dyer, Winks, Dele, Kane. Everywhere it felt like half a Spurs team, if not more, let alone the squad. What why has that changed? What's gone wrong?
We have fallen, but I don't think that's what shows it, because it's not necessarily a case of there being less English players, meaning that we've fallen off. It's more a case of we've actually got less good English players in our team, and we've just got more good players from other nations. Like look at our goalkeeper's Italian. Well, if I was to think of players who were their position was once English, so you've got left back is now Udogie, who's Italian. You've got Dyer's not at the club anymore. Who else? Kane's not at the club anymore. Dele Alli's not at the club anymore. So I think it doesn't really mean too much.
Fair enough. Phillip, what do you reckon about that?
Yeah, I agree with Connor. I mean, I think it's just a bit of chance as well, right? If we still had Kane, then he'd be playing. If Dele didn't obviously, completely, kind of disappear, right, in terms of quality level performance, then he'd probably still be in there. We wouldn't necessarily replace like for like with an English player nowadays, I think, because the price of English players is very high, isn't it, as well? And what are the English options? If you look at the England team, Declan Rice is obviously the centre midfielder. He went for 100 million, right? Pickford, is there. And right? Dyer obviously is no longer, but he played for England for many years. And I think, in our transfer dealings, it's just been chance that we haven't really bought any English players. And to be fair, who is there genuinely on the market that probably would have strengthened us in those cases? Look at the English defence. Look at our defence. That's obviously our weak point for the Euros. I mean, we've got so much attacking flair, but we've got, there's a couple of players there in the back line that I honestly actually don't really know that much about. There's a couple of names in the squad, and I mean, I follow the Premier League, kind of religiously, but I don't follow it that much. That there's a couple of those defenders in there. I couldn't tell you, like how they play or whether they're good. Tomori can't even get in, even though he's, kind of, I think, good enough, but he's playing abroad. So yeah, like to echo Connor, I don't think we've done anything wrong. The only thing I would say is, of course, we haven't got any more youth players that have come through, in the last years since Kane, who's obviously or Winks. Before Winks, obviously, also kind of fell off a cliff in terms of his performances, right? Because it's not that long ago when Winks was starting games for England, right? At that point, I think he basically dominated. Was it France or someone like that, or Argentina? There was a couple of games where he came in and he looked amazingly, and then he obviously kind of started going downhill. And if we had some more players coming through, whether it would be the likes now of a Donnelly or a Mikey Moore, the couple of defenders that we've got, coming forwards, then maybe that would change. But I don't think we've done anything wrong. I don't think it's a negative towards Spurs.
Okay. No, I think that's completely fine.
It is a shame. It's a shame because I think it's always nice to have a bit of that spine, because we always have. I think I saw another fact. I think on one of the other kind of pods threw out there somewhere in a post saying that I think Spurs still have the most ever players, right, that have represented England or something like that. I think we've still got individually the most amount of caps ever out of any, Premier League team. So we've always had this strong history of bringing through English players. So it is a bit of a shame, but again, it's not our fault. I would say it's not negative.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Before we wrap up, we'll go to people's questions. Justin, kick it off with you. People who can't see it, Ringit Sports Agenda says, and this is regarding what Justin said earlier. Question for Justin in particular. So are you willing to spend 40 million on Guirassy, who has had a one-season wonder, also is 28? What will be your counter-argument to that?
So the rumor is that he has a release clause of £17.5 million. That is what is being spoken about as it stands. The initial reaction was it was going to be during the January window while he was at AFCON, so that's why they put it on there. But obviously, it now sounds like that it is going to now be in the summer as well. If it was a case of £17.5 million, the answer would be absolutely. For £40 million for a one-season wonder, which I totally agree with, then no, you could not justify spending that sort of money on it. You would make more sense if you're going to do that to go and get Ivan Toney or someone similar.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And we'll move on to the next question. And Connor, I'll give it to you. It's from Daniel. And Daniel says, thoughts on the possible return of Marcus Edwards? Would you be open to it?
I think we touched on this one on last week's episode, and I remember saying that. So obviously we've already signed Timo Werner, and if we hadn't have signed Timo Werner, then fine, I would have taken Marcus Edwards. But I feel like to have Timo Werner and Marcus Edwards, two very cheap wingers, I don't know whether that would do it for me. I feel like I'd rather have someone a little bit better. But yeah, but then again, I haven't watched enough of Marcus Edwards. But personally, I'd much rather have a proven player.
Fair enough. And the last question for today, I'll give to you, Phillip. It's from Jace. It's going to ask a question. Who should have Southgate kept in the England squad? Yeah, what would you change, Phillip? Here's your moment.
Should Solanke have got called up and Braithwaite?
Yeah, what do you think about the England squad? What if you were in Gareth Southgate's shoes? What have you changed?
Well, I probably would have kept Grealish in, I think, as we said before. I agree with you, Harry. I think that I would have maybe taken Toney out and just kept the strikers as it is, bearing in mind that Palmer can also probably play up top, maybe.
Okay.
Braithwaite, I think I would have kept in, actually, as an example. Maguire, I think, is injured. Is that right? Is that why he's not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, obviously, that would have been a mistake. But if he's injured, fair enough. I don't think he's done too much. I think it's a fair squad. I honestly think Southgate's done a good job with how he's done the squad overall. So I think it's fairly well balanced, apart from Grealish, I would say.
No, fair enough. I think it kind of wraps us up nicely for today's show. So thank you very much, everyone who put their questions in, everyone's listened in, live afterwards and contributed in any way, shape or form. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to smash the subscribe button. It's free to do so and it helps the channel grow. If you're listening after on a podcast platform, don't forget to give us a follow and a 5-star review. Justin, thank you. Where can people find you?
To be honest, social media, so Twitter is generally the main place that I'll put any sort of comments out. And as hopefully people have seen, if you've got any questions or things I've said, I'll happily answer them back, either here or Spurs Kings TV. So, thank you so much for having us on again. I look forward to next time.
Yeah. It should be good. You'll see regular on the show. I'm sure you'll be on. Well, you are be on. Throughout the summer. So thank you very much, Justin. Phillip, first time on the show, last minute. Thank you very much once again. I did absolutely need that when two people pulled out in the last 20-25 minutes unexpectedly. You turn your phone on, two people pulled out. So thank you very much. Where can people find you on social media?
When I'm on there, I'm mainly on Twitter. as well at Frankfurt Spurs. So yeah, I'm pretty much just on Twitter. So yeah, find me on there.
Lovely. It'd be great to have you back on as well if you're interested.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to come on.
Fantastic. There we go. You can steal Justin's place. Don't tell him. Let's hope he can't hear. Oh, no, he's still there. Never mind. Connor, thank you very much for coming on once again. Where can we provide you?
Thanks for having me, Harry. You can find me on Twitter under Hotspur Things.
Oh, nice and short. I love that. A lot shorter than mine would be. So there we go. Won't worry about mine for today. So thank you very much, everyone, once again. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
You were working as a manager at Celtic Park when we met you. We picked you out, you shook us up and turned us around. You've turned us into something new. Ange Postecoglou, you know that we believe it when you say you're gonna change it. Ange Postecoglou, we're the mighty Tottenham and nobody's gonna stop them. Oh, he looks so fine in blue and lily white. And then he said to me, I'm from a land down under. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh.